right, guys, we're at the top of the hour. Let's get started. There's more people that hopefully show up, so thanks for moving to the middle. They can kind of sit on the end. I know most of you, but if you don't know me, I'm Jeff Marchant with the Marchant Real Estate Group, Team Limitless, and EXP. And Sydney saying I'm talking too loud. No, can't hear you. Oh, you can't hear me?
No, I can.
Okay. Trying to read the sign language there, so just yell it out at me. You know what? You guys are my kind of people. Coming here in the middle of the day, everybody's busy, right? I gotta, because I can tell a little bit about you because you're invested in learning about your success and then probably sharing this with others. I know some of you are here to pass on this information to those that can't be here themselves, so that's super awesome. Obviously, we're recording it, so you're going to have a great shareable for your families and your friends, and I would challenge you to do that because you're going to get some really, really good information today. I want to show you this little handout thing that I have that should be in your bag. There's a couple QR codes on this. This is inside the bag, right? One is simply so you can get the contact information for our beautiful sponsor, Debbie, and then our beautiful Martin. His words, eye candy. So you'll have the contact information on there. The other one is for a feedback form. I would love you to, obviously you're going to pay attention today. You're going to get some little takeaways. You're going to take some notes, hopefully. I would like you to share those with us. It's great feedback. Help us in planning an event like this in the future. So we'll have a feedback form, and if it's okay with you, I'm going to send you a little text reminder with a link to the form that you could do that later if you don't have time to do it right after this event. So here's what we're going to do. Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to have Debbie come up, and she's going to introduce Martin. Debbie, I refer to her as my proof that warriors come in small packages. I don't know where that came from, but I spit that out one time. She's like, yeah, let's keep going with that.
I said it was the nicest intro I've ever had.
Yes. So no, Debbie's awesome. And I say that because, get to know her. A lot of, who here is a real estate agent? A lot of agents. Well, let me rephrase that. Who here is not a real estate agent? Okay, so we got some that aren't real estate agents. Take the time, set up an appointment, go to lunch with her, get to know her personal background. Fighting in life and in business is why I call her a warrior. She just doesn't give up. She doesn't quit. So she's going to go first, and then she's just going to not really talk about her and her business until the end, but she's going to give us an introduction on Martin. And then Martin's going to come up here and give us his presentation. You guys, honestly, you're in for a treat. I want to set the expectations high, Martin, because I've seen it before. And I know he's always well prepared and well rehearsed. He's a TEDx speaker. The first time I saw his presentation, he was in my office in Draper. And I was like, holy, this is good info. I need to share it with more people. I'm not going to pick July next time. When people are traveling, kids are out of school, probably do an evening event. So again, I commend you guys and I thank you for being here. It really means a lot. And like I said, you guys are my kind of people. It's like you're investing in yourselves and in others. And I'm excited for today. So I'm going to hand this to Debbie and let her introduce Martin, and we're going to rip into it.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Okay, so like Jeff said, my name is Debbie Hart. I'm on the elite team at Security Home Mortgage, and I love working with the Marchant team. They are high class. They provide a lot of really good training, and I am so excited to be here. Who else is excited to be here? Yes, okay. And who is here because you want to learn about achieving financial independence? Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome. Now I want you to raise your hand if you or anyone you know has any concerns right now about rising home prices, interest rates, gas prices, what's going on in the Ukraine, or any of the other countless crazy things going on in the world right now. Any concerns about that whatsoever? Pretty much everyone, right? So that's why Martin and I have come up with some plans to help you guys and to help the people that you work with achieve a sense of financial security and have that plan to work towards it. Most of the stress, and you're going to learn this from Martin, most of the stress comes from the unknown or not having a plan. So we're so excited to have this presentation for you guys. guys today. And I have known Martin a long time. We've been working together almost 10 years now, and he is an awesome speaker. He, as Jeff mentioned, he is a TEDx speaker. He is an expert on helping people achieve financial independence. He's also the author of many books, including one called Yes, Money Can Make You Happy, because it can sure help. He's also the founder of the firm Achieve More Retirement, where he helps people plan to have that financial security in their golden years so they actually can retire. Most people don't have a plan or don't even realize how to achieve that. They're going to sit back and hope the government's going to take care of them. I don't know about you, but do you feel like that's going to be a good plan? No hands on that one. So it's better to know what you're getting into, and Martin's going to be able to help you show not only yourself and your family, but your clients how to achieve that plan. And in his spare time, when he is not speaking, writing, or thinking about money, he is spending time with his lovely wife, their 3 kids, exploring the Utah mountains. They like to camp, and they travel to Mexico a lot as well. And the best thing about Martin is he thinks he's funny, but he's not. No. You'll get a lot of cheesy jokes. Plus, he is a guitar player in a rock and roll band. So he's got a lot of personality, a lot of talents. Please welcome Martin Hurlbert.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Any guesses who was the lead singer in my rock and roll band? She joined 2 months ago as a backup singer, and she's taken over. All right. How many of you have been on a cruise before? All right. So I want you to vouch for what I'm about to say. When you're on a cruise ship, it's a wonderful, marvelous experience. And probably one of the highlights every day is the dinner. Is that right? You go to dinner. It's almost like it's a world event with world leaders. And you sit down, they put a napkin in your lap for you. It's awesome, right? So I'm at dinner one night on this cruise ship and heard some gentlemen speaking in our little group. One of them was an attorney. Any attorneys here? Okay, good, I can tell the truth. So the attorney, it tells his story that about 6 months prior, he lost his home and all of his belongings in a massive fire. Everything went up in smoke. And a month later, the insurance company sent him a check for $1 million to replace it all. And when he got that check, he said, you know what? I'm going to go on a Caribbean cruise. Good for him, right? So across the table, this guy hears a story, and he looks absolutely dumbfounded. He goes, what are the odds? And the attorney said, what do you mean? The other guy says, 6 months ago, I lost my home, all my belongings in a massive flood. Waters just came through, swept everything I owned away. I get a check a month later for $1 million from the insurance company and decide to come on this exact same cruise. What a huge coincidence, right? Now, upon hearing the other guy's story, the attorney looked really confused and said, how do you start a flood? My goal in our time together is to help you retire without starting a fire. That rhymes. Awesome. Okay? So we're going to talk about how to achieve financial security in any market condition, and I want to get your perspective for a moment here, and this is going to be participatory. When I say the words financial independence, what comes to mind? What does it mean to you? Freedom. Okay, freedom. We'll put that up here. Freedom. What else? Invest. Okay, so you're investing. I like that. So freedom, you're investing. What else comes to mind when you hear the words financial independence? Let's get like 2 more. Okay, passive income. I like that. Yes, passive income. So passive income. And that's so you can be passive as well? No, quite the opposite. You can have a nice, wonderful life, right? Very active life. Let's one more thing. Yes, sir.
Structure.
What's that?
Structure.
Structure. Okay. Now, we could go on and on here, but we'll leave it at this for now. So financial independence means freedom. You're investing. You have passive income. You have structure in your life. Fortunately, this is a magical pen that I use, and this is now happening for every one of you. Just imagine that for a moment. Every one of you, you have financial freedom. You're there. You have it. You have passive income. Whether you work or not, the money comes in. You have the structure, so it all goes according to the plan, and you're investing. So imagine you're there right now. How do you benefit personally? How do you feel? Give me some ideas. Happy. Remember what Debbie said my first book was called? Yes, Money Can Make You Happy. So you're happy. What else? How else do you feel? What? Secure. Okay. So secure.
Less anxiety.
Can I say, okay, less anxiety? Let's put that in there. So less anxiety. Let me ask you a question. If you have all these things up here, do you have better or worse personal relationships?
Better.
Probably better, right? Yeah, absolutely. Better relationships. Let me put that in here as well. And peace. Okay, better relationships. And I'll put that over here. And peace. Okay, can I make a suggestion? That on your quest to achieve financial security, yes, you have to deal with money. That's an important part of it. But it's not about the money. It's not even about these things. It's not about dressing like Jeff does. Okay, that's not the end goal. Or his lovely wife, Lynn. It's about getting really beyond the money so that you have a sense of happiness, security in your life. You have less anxiety, at peace, and better relationships. That's what it's for. Those should be the driving factors. It's not about buying the next house. That's just a means to an end. So we have to focus on the end results. So I'm going to just make an assumption here, which can be a little dangerous, that most of you in this room right now are not quite where you want to be, financially speaking. There's room for improvement. Is that a fair statement? Okay, no matter where you are in the spectrum. So we want to achieve financial security, so all these things can be in your life. You can have better relationships, be a better parent, better spouse, all those things. Better rock star. You know what? It takes a lot of time to be in a rock and roll band. But I have the freedom to do that because I've achieved some level of success, right? Financially speaking. So wherever you are right now, what is there between where you are and all these things happening? In other words, what is standing between you right now and financial security? I'm going to bring up a slide here. I might give you some ideas.
The plan.
Does anyone feel like that? I think someone here mentioned war. Right now we have Russia invading Ukraine, and literally the world's food supply is at risk because of that. How about inflation? Highest levels in over 40 years. I vaguely remember the Carter years. I was like about 10 or 11, 12 years old at that time period. But I remember waiting in line to buy gas. There was a time where you had to buy gas every other day because of a gas shortage in the late 70s. And what else is going on right now that might impede your ability to achieve financial success? We've got inflation, we've got war, gas prices have doubled. How about the stock market? Anyone follow the stock market? The worst start for a calendar year in about 50 years for the stock market. So how in the world are you going to achieve financial security with all that crap going on? Is it even possible? Should we just stop right now and go home and go to bed? No, of course not, right? It is very, very possible. Now, and today we're going to talk about some of those things, all these outside forces, but also some inside forces. Now, this next picture, it's a little strong, but there's a real purpose for it, okay? That is me on June 29th, 2017. I just passed the 5th year anniversary of my triple bypass open heart surgery. Now, they knew I had some blockage in my arteries, so the night before, the doctors tried to do a stent. That's where they go through your artery and just push the little thing up there and open it up. After about half an hour, they said, Martin, it's not going to work for you because you have 3 blocked arteries inside your heart. You need triple bypass open heart surgery or you'll die of a heart attack in the next 12 months. Martin, this is Dr. Mitchell, our heart surgeon. He has an opening tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Are you available? I looked at my watch and I said, yep, I'm available now. So I had 12 hours notice. Now the reason I show that picture there and tell that story is I think what the doctor did was absolutely amazing. To open up my chest, to take veins from my left ankle, which is still kind of numb, and bypass 3 blocked arteries inside my heart, put it all back together again, leaving me a really cool 6-inch scar. And he did all that without killing me. It boggles the mind what they're capable of. Yet, in spite of the training, the experience, and the knowledge of our nation's surgeons, about 150,000 people were dying in the operating table every year due to human error. In other words, mental mistakes. Then one surgeon came up with a system that reduced those deaths by 47%, saving over 70,000 lives per year. And I'll share with you kind of the second half of this presentation how they did that and how it can help you achieve financial security. So, 30 years ago, I started my career as a financial advisor. Graduate from university with a degree in political science and economics. I'm ready to take names and kick butt. I was so smart back then. Lynn, you can't imagine how smart I was 30 years ago. It was very impressive, if I say so myself. So here I am starting my career, getting ready to rock and roll, and my mother sends me a newspaper article from California, where she lives. This is back in the days when you sent the actual piece of paper, and I'll link to the article online, because there was no online back then. And this article said about 82% of all professional athletes will end up declaring bankruptcy within 5 years of leaving the sport. That's almost kind of common knowledge now, but it wasn't back then. They were our heroes. And these people make millions, tens of millions, and in some cases now hundreds of millions of dollars, and the vast majority declare bankruptcy. And what is bankruptcy, by the way? Does that mean you have nothing? No, if you're bankrupt, getting back to nothing is a huge improvement. I mean, you're deeply in the hole. So from millions and millions of dollars to way below nothing, and here's why it blew me away. It went against everything I was taught at university about economics. Now you should have a fill-in-the-blank outline. It looks kind of like this, and this is the first fill-in-the-blank we're going to be looking at right now. Okay? So I've taken most of the notes for you. Here's what I realized when I got that article. Modern economic theory is based upon a fallacy. Do you have one there? If not, there's some upstairs. Maybe Debbie can go grab some if you don't have one. Modern economic theory is based upon a fallacy. Write that word in there. It says how to achieve financial independence in any market condition. I actually wrote this page myself. You can tell I'm a graphics guru. All right? Thank you, Lynn, for laughing at that. They'll get some more here. If you need one, raise your hand, and we'll get you some more. Okay, it's like about 2 or 3. Let me continue on here, because it's easy to catch up. So, modern economic theory is based upon a fallacy. It's based upon the existence of a mythical creature I call, whoops, we just went off here. There we go, Homo economicus. So, according to modern economic theory, Homo economicus resides in all of us. Let me bring up the definition. Here's the definition of it. Maybe I'll go like this. There we go. I got to get closer to this. The ideal human who makes utility maximizing rational decisions every single time. So in other words, modern economic theory works just great if you and I never make a mistake. How realistic is that? Do we always make the right financial choice, whether it's in an investment or buying or earning money? Of course not, right? We all make mistakes. So when I learned this, I thought, man, well, what's going on here? All that time and energy into my university degree. So I began to search, okay, well, what's the real answer? And eventually I came across something that's called behavioral finance and behavioral economics. I'm going to read the definition for it right here. I love this definition. Behavioral finance focuses not on theory, but instead on how people actually behave in real-world financial situations. It assumes that investors are not always logical. Have you ever worked with an investor who is not logical, or a customer or a client? Yeah, we all do, right? And it says, and investors can easily make irrational decisions, and this is a very important part here, we'll come back to it. They can make irrational choices when there are no systems in place to remind them of the priorities they set and the plans they've established. Like priorities like these things right here. So when I found economic behavioral finance, behavioral economics, it's like the heavens opened up, this light shined on me and says, Martin, this is your life's mission. To find out why people behave the way they do with money and how they can make things better. So I read all the books I can get. Here's some books right here. I've written a few books. I've taken courses. And I can summarize my entire life's work, the past 30 years, in just 7 key words. And this next fill-in-the-blank in the outline. Okay, these next words, this sentence alone is worth you come here today. Are you ready to hear it? Yes. There it is. Eventually. There we go. Emotions can be hazards to your wealth. Write that in your fill-in-the-blank. Now, it's not that emotions are bad, but the problem comes from not recognizing the influence emotions have on our decision-making process, especially when it comes to money. So this leads to what I call financial misbehavior. Financial misbehavior is when smart, successful people, much like all of you, will use emotions or intuition instead of logic to make important financial choices. What this leads to is what I call financial misbehavior. Okay, financial misbehavior just means, that it impacts your investment returns. It might create unnecessary or out of control spending. It causes all kinds of problems. However it manifests itself, that's the next fill in the blank. Okay, financial misbehavior will always lower my net worth and increase my stress. It lowers your net worth and increases the stress. Now, in order to better understand financial misbehavior, let's just do a brief summary of how the mind operates. Our mind has two basic parts. What are they? Okay, conscious and subconscious. And another way of kind of saying that really is the logical side and the emotional side. The subconscious is the emotional side, very large, very powerful, and the conscious side is the emotional. It's aware of what we're thinking. About 95% of the thoughts we have every single day, we don't think about those thoughts. They just happen automatically. They're the subconscious. They're the emotional side, okay? So what does the emotional side want? It has two primary drivers. It wants to get pleasure or avoid pain when? Right now, right? Short-term thinking. So we have that part of our brain, which is necessary. In fact, it's actually very powerful. We survived as a species because of that fight or flight mentality for the emotional side. The logical side wants to carefully compare and contrast all the possible courses of action and choose the best one. And our world is better when we're using both sides of the brain. They're kind of in balance. The challenge is there's just like this battle going on. Nobel Prize winner Daniel Kahneman said that as much as possible, our brains will push choices into the emotional side because it's faster, it's easier, and it uses less energy. You know, our brains weigh about 3 to 5% of our body weight, but it uses 20% of the energy. So just by human nature, human survival mechanisms, we are trying to always be efficient with the energy in our brain. We're talking about this ongoing battle between the logical side and the emotional side. It was demonstrated by a study at Stanford University. They asked graduate students who are by nature very smart people, Stanford University graduate students, and they asked them a simple thing: would you memorize the numbers for us? They had one group had to memorize 2 numbers, the other group had to memorize 7 numbers. But that wasn't the experiment. This was. They were asked to walk down the hallway to a different room and report their numbers. And halfway down the hallway was a table with someone sitting there. And they said, "Sir, would you like something to eat?" And they had some cake and they had some fruit. What they found is one of those groups, the majority chose the cake, and one group, the majority chose the fresh fruit. Any guesses? The ones who memorized 7 numbers, did they choose cake or fresh fruit? Those who had 7 numbers chose the fruit, right? That's what you're saying? How do I say this nicely? You're kind of wrong. The people who had memorized 7 numbers, they chose the cake. And those who had only 2 numbers memorized, they chose the fresh fruit. Now I'm going to read again from the guy's report. Let's see here. It says, the students with 7 numbers to remember were twice as likely to choose cake as those given 2 numbers. The reason, according to Professor Shiv, is that those extra numbers took up valuable space in the brain. They were a cognitive load, making it that much harder to resist a sweet dessert. So in other words, the emotional side is so powerful. What does it take for you to give up on your diet? 5 extra digits. Diet, be gone. Okay, 5 extra digits to memorize, and all of a sudden your primitive emotional brain kicks in, and what is it telling to you, Lynn? It's saying, cake, good. Me cake now. Stanford, graduate students are talking like that. Okay, so this battle's always going on. Now, scientists have done some really cool things. They've made amazing progress in the past decade with how our brains operate. One thing they found is that just thinking about getting money will trigger the reward centers of our brain, and dopamine levels go up. So you don't have to even actually get the money, just thinking about the money, and you feel good. For those of you who are realtors in here today, have you ever pre-spent a commission? See, one honest person back there, right? Oh yeah, right? It feels really good to think about that, doesn't it? They did one study where they looked at people expecting to get money, and they compared their brain scans to those who were high on cocaine. Here's what they found. Our brain expecting money looks like a brain high on cocaine. The same parts of the brain light up, which may explain why sometimes even I buy a lottery ticket. Even though the odds of winning are the same as being hit by a meteorite, being struck by lightning, getting a hole-in-one, and being bitten by a shark on the same day. Okay, it doesn't happen very often, does it? And I can remember, first time I bought a lottery ticket, I probably bought like 3 my whole life. But the first time, it's about 29 years ago, it cost me $1. I brought it home. And my wife and I, we closed our eyes and we thought about what it would be like to have all that money. That'd be so freaking awesome. Oh, man. It feels good right now. Anyone here have an increase in dopamine levels right now? Just imagining winning tens of millions of dollars. It feels really good, right? Okay, so we have that thing, but just think about money. We feel good, which can lead to our brains operating like a cocaine user. Not probably the best way to make choices. The opposite of feeling good is fear, and fear might be the most dangerous emotion when it comes to managing money, because fear triggers the amygdala part of our brain, which bypasses rational thought. So if you're in front of that big dinosaur, you can't think, okay, now is this a friendly dinosaur or is this a mean dinosaur? You have no time for that. Those who thought about it died. Those who, fight or flight, okay, they had the fear, they kicked in, they survived. So again, it's very, very powerful. So if you're in front of a wild animal, that might be a good thing. But what if the thing that triggers your fear is a downturn in the stock market? Or what if what triggers your fear is maybe losing an important customer or a case? And then fear kicks in. That's when you need logic more than ever. Let me demonstrate this to you. This is a chart, shows 10 years, money going into and out of stock mutual funds. You notice there's 2 years that are red, 2003 and 2009. In those 2 years, more money came out of the stock market than went into it. If you know your stock market history, what was happening in those 2 years? Very close. It was actually the end. So in both these years right here, this was the end of a recession, end of a recession. In other words, the stock market was on sale. It was a horrible time to sell, a fantastic time to buy, and most people did the exact opposite. If you like tuna fish and it costs $2 a can, you go in the store with your spouse and it's on sale for only $1 a can. Do you turn to your spouse and say, you know what, let's wait for this sale to end, and then we'll come in and buy a whole bunch? Would you do that? But that's what humans do with the stock market all the time. It's even happening right now. It's a great time to buy. One of my clients, his name, we'll call him Dave, not his real name. He has a PhD. He is brilliant. He makes hundreds of thousands of dollars a year as a consultant. He just is very, very good in his field. He became my client in 2017, and he revealed to me that in the summer of 2009, he moved $500,000 from his stock mutual funds and he put it in a bank account. And he kept the money there ever since. So right here, worst possible time, he goes from stocks into a bank account. Now, if you know, back then the Dow Jones Industrial Average was at about 6,000 points. When I met him, it was at 25,000 points. Now it's over 30,000. What does that mean? If he had left the money in the stock market, what would have happened to his $500,000? Would have been worth about $2 million. Okay, so here in this case, hardworking guy, smart, PhD level smartness, let a knee-jerk emotional reaction cost him literally $1.5 million. This is not, again, economic theory, home economics. This is real world, real money. Now he's still doing okay, still working, but that's an example of the power of fear to lead to bad choices. Now, so dopamine levels and feeling good is pretty powerful. Fear is very powerful. Most of the mind tricks we play on ourselves are a lot more subtle than that, and there's dozens of them. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One is called hindsight bias. Hindsight bias means when we have an event, or so we make a decision or a choice, and it leads to a good outcome, and we look back on that process, we say, oh, Martin, way to go. We give ourselves kind of too much credit sometimes. And that's okay. Obviously, we take some responsibility. It's because of us. But we give ourselves too much credit. And if it leads to a bad outcome, and we look back, what do? Do we take responsibility? We want to blame someone else. That's kind of the default mode. And so what that does is it creates what I call a reality gap between what actually happened and what we think happened, and that makes it harder to learn going forward. So that's called hindsight bias. Another mind trick, kind of subtle one, is called anchoring. Anchoring is when you put too much emphasis on one bit of information, even if it's no longer relevant. Well, hindsight bias and anchoring cost another client of mine, we'll call him Bob, cost him $800,000. He was a very successful businessman, did quite well financially. A friend of his started a brand new company, and he invested $100,000 in that company at $1 per share. It turned out to be a pretty good investment. The company went public. Share price went from $1 to $10. Okay, any math gurus in here? How much does he have right now? $100,000, it increases tenfold. Go ahead, Jeff. $1 million. All right, says the man in the shorts. Okay, $1 million. Okay, way to go, Bob. Awesome. So we talk. I said, Bob, now might be a good time to sell that investment. As you did that. Martin, you don't understand. I know the founder personally. He says the future looks bright, and besides, look how well it's done so far. I think selling right now makes no sense at all. That's an example of hindsight bias. He was giving himself too much credit for what turned out to be a lucky investment. Any guesses what happened next? There you go. Yes, there's a technical term right there. It went down. $8 a share. We talk again. Bob, you should probably sell. He says, you know what, Martin, you're absolutely right. I should have sold it $10. I should have. You were right. When it gets back to $10 a share, I'm going to sell it all. That's an example of anchoring. His mind was now anchored on that $10 share price, even though the current and future price of any stock has nothing to do with its past value or price. Went to $5 a share, eventually down to $2 per share. So his $1 million account is now worth how much? $200,000. Okay, he lost $800,000 because, again, emotionally driven decisions. So do you agree with me? The emotions can be hazardous to your wealth, right? Okay, let's carry on here. Those are some on the inside of our minds, our brains, our psyche. There are some outside forces that can magnify the impact of financial misbehavior. I call these misbehavior multipliers. Okay, the first one applies to everyone here. Information overload. Have you ever felt like your brain was tired? Raise your hand if your brain's ever been tired. If you have small children, by like about 9 a.m., right? Okay. So why does the brain get tired? We are being asked to make more choices than ever before in the history of mankind. Thousands and thousands of choices and options. How about this? If you want to buy some jeans, what do you have to do now? There's a simple guide to jeans. All I want to do is wear jeans. And what I got to do? Can we read some of these right here? I can get, sits below the waist, slim fit, skinny leg, slim fit, slightly tapered leg, regular fit, tapered leg, slim fit, slim leg. How's a guy supposed to choose? You try and buy a cell phone, or you go into whatever those big box stores, Best Buy or Costco, and you want to buy a TV. So many options. They're supposed to make our life better, but they're actually having the opposite effect. They are making our brains get tired. Now, there is one pretty simple choice. Fish crackers. What is the purpose of fish crackers? What's that? Snack, but snack for who? For kids. The purpose of fish crackers is to make sure your children don't embarrass you in public. Right? That's the only reason why I buy it. So they don't embarrass you in public. So they behave. Okay, so imagine this. You're going to let's say an important wedding. You got the kids or maybe the grandkids in tow, and you stop by the store, just buy some fish crackers. No big deal, right? And you come across this in the store. There are now 36 varieties of fish crackers. Your brain has to analyze, compare, and contrast all 36 varieties to try and pick the right one. That's tiring. I was giving this class in Lehigh about maybe 4 years ago now. And this lady yells out, "Vanilla cupcake." Now, I'm very white. And I thought, is she calling me a vanilla cupcake? But she clarified it and said, that's my kid's favorite variety of fish cracker. I didn't know it existed, but there it is right there. Vanilla cupcake fish crackers. All you want is your kids not to embarrass you in public. When my kids were growing up, we had one kind of fish cracker, and it worked just fine. It was cheddar cheese. This was it. When I gave my TEDx talk about 4 years ago, this is the actual bag I used. This is a famous bag now. Made famous on TikTok. I wouldn't recommend you eat it. Okay, so all these choices we have to make come at a real cost. And this book right here is called The Organized Mind, by Jeff, who is it? Daniel Levitin. He says this, that neurons are living organisms with a metabolism. They require oxygen and glucose to survive. And when it's being asked to make too many choices, the brain cells and neurons, they get tired and they check out. So your brain literally does get tired when asked to make too many choices. And then when it does, emotions can take over, right? That's why you may, you may ask yourself, or make a decision, let's say, a choice, and then 6 months go by and you ask yourself, well, geez, what was I thinking? You weren't thinking. Okay, you're reacting emotionally. And I'll give you an example of that, okay? Tonight, 9 o'clock at night, you're getting ready to go to bed. It's been a long day. You've made thousands of choices today. And then you remember you got some old 401k from a previous employer. You should probably roll it to an IRA. You want to figure out, what do I do with that old 401k? So you go to the fountain of all knowledge, which is what? Right? Google. You type in how to invest. And this pops up. 267 million websites on how to invest your money. How useful is that? And they all conflict. On top of the websites, we got this. We got hundreds of daily newspapers. We have dozens of weekly magazines. And we have this mainstream media 24 hours a day spewing out sensational headlines to try and get your attention. How does the mainstream financial media measure success? Is it by your net worth? Viewers, advertising revenue. I would not ever trust the mainstream financial media. I would trust Jeff more than them. Okay? I mean that in a very good way, Jeff. And most realtors, financial advisors, they measure success by the success of their clients. If they succeed, we succeed. It's not about revenue. So what happens in the mainstream media is they have to sensationalize headlines of the stock market plunged today, or the stock market plummeted, or no one's buying houses anymore. Is that true, Debbie? I do hear that. You do hear it, but it's not true. People are still need a place to live, right? They're still building them. Okay, so you have this important decision to make on your 401k rollover. It could impact you for decades to come, and you get overwhelming, conflicting information, and you feel kind of like her. It's like, make it stop. That is uncomfortable. It might even be painful. Remember the first part of this presentation about the brain? What happens when you feel discomfort or pain? The emotional side kicks in and wants to get rid of it. So the emotional side will make that choice for you the fastest, easiest choice, not the best choice. And that's why when 6 months go by, you go, yeah, what was I thinking? You were not thinking. You're reacting emotionally. Now, something else that can impact or multiply in a financial misbehavior is something I call sudden wealth syndrome. That's when you get a whole bunch of money all at once. It could be an inheritance. It might be a spouse passing on. You get life insurance. Maybe you sell a business. And also, I think those who get ready to retire, they've worked their whole career, and they throw money into a 401k, have no idea what it's really doing, and now they got $1 million they have, and they have to manage $1 million. That can be very overwhelming. In fact, what about lottery winners? Do lottery winners keep their money? The vast majority are bankrupt within just a few years. A lot of them are divorced too. Because you give some guy $10 million, and all of a sudden he thinks he's handsome. And so do certain ladies. I won't talk about that anymore. Okay, so yeah, not a good thing. Sudden wealth syndrome it just magnifies misbehavior. So what I recommend is, if you know you're going to get some money, plan for the money in advance before you get it. Once you get it, it's too late. Now, I don't have any professional athlete clients of mine, but if I did, here's what I'd be telling them. Decide in advance how much money you're just going to blow, whatever, on jewelry, on partying, I don't care. But if you have $10 million, maybe you're going to blow $1 million. That's fine. You deserve it. You worked hard. Decide how much you're going to set aside for the future and what you're actually going to live on. Just decide before you get the money. Hey, I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is there's no cure for financial misbehavior. It is part of being human. Okay, we can't get away from that, but there are some things we can do to minimize or reduce the influence it has in your life so you can achieve financial security. So we're going to go through 5 steps right now. The first one, this is in the solutions page, part there, about the middle of your outline. This is the most important one, and we're going to spend the most time on this, is to have a plan. Most people do not have an actual financial plan. Now, they may think about it occasionally, but they don't have a real formal plan. So if you don't have a plan for your money, do you know what that makes you? It makes you normal. Okay, you're like everyone else, okay? But you're also responsible for it. So HSBC Bank did a study. They asked 17,000 people, what do you associate with retirement? And they put these people into 2 different groups, those with a plan and those without a plan. What they found is this: those with a plan, they won in 3 categories. Higher sense of freedom, happiness, and hope. So they're feeling pretty good. Now, to their credit, the non-planners also won in 3 categories. They had a higher sense of hardship, loneliness, and fear. So people with a plan, they felt a whole lot better, and that's wonderful to feel better, right? We even talked about that right here a little bit. Okay? But it went beyond that. people with the plan had a net worth 552% higher. All else being equal. Same income, same community, same economic conditions, same opportunities. Those with the plan end up with nearly 6 times more money than those without a plan. And go back to that definition of behavioral economics. Remember, it says right here that people can easily make irrational decisions when there are no systems in place to remind them of the priorities they've set and the plans they've established. You want to overcome financial misbehavior, have a plan, refer back to it often. Often. I remember early in my career, I used to make financial plans for people that were like this thick. It was when inkjet printers were kind of new and color. It was all the rage. And I'd make this really, really nice plan with 150 pages. I'd give it to Lynn and to Jeff, and they'd be really impressed with it. And guess what they'd do with that plan? They put it somewhere on a shelf or in a box, and they never looked at it again. A really useful plan is dynamic. It's always adjusting, it's always changing, it's always being updated. So right now what I'm going to do is we're going to go through what I think is the key to success in retirement. And that is, there's the question right there. What is the key to success? I think it's this. Trade-offs. But not any trade-offs. Well-informed, educated trade-offs. I'm going to show you right now 2 case studies. I love learning by case studies. These case studies are how to use a software that I'm going to make available to all of you at no charge. You can give it to all your clients as well, no charge. This is for anyone. It's on my website, and I give it away. And what we're going to learn here in these 2 case studies is we'll look at one person who's done a pretty good job of saving money. They got $1.2 million, and they're getting close to retirement. We'll look at that and show them how to have a plan can make the retirement much more fulfilling and much more successful. Then we'll look at someone else in the mid-40s with less money, okay, maybe a little behind their financial goals. And you'll see how the power of a plan can really help both scenarios. So here's the input page right here. It looks kind of small, so let's make this a little bigger. There is Mark, age 62 years old. He makes $180,000 a year. His wife stays at home. We go down a little bit on the screen. Whoops, there we go. He has $1.25 million in his 401k. He's saving $25,000 a year. That includes his contribution and a company match to a 401k. He has an aggressive portfolio. Do you think that you could input that much information in this program? How much time is that going to take? A minute. A minute. Now, it may take a little longer to gather the information. That's okay, right? So you do all this. We hit next, and it shows us that Mark and Mary have a 38% chance of success in retirement. Are those very good odds? I would not retire with those kinds of odds. No, I would not feel good about that. So I'm talking to Mark and Mary. I say, they live in a beautiful home. They love it. Their kids are out of the nest. The kids only come back for very short visits, knock on wood. Not for too long. So I asked Mark and Mary, if it helps your retirement, would you consider renting your basement? Let's say $1,000 a month. Very reasonable right now. And they say, sure, that makes sense. So we're going to go back to the input page right here. And we're going to click on Add Other Income. There it is, $12,000 a year. Now remember, they were at 36%. How are they doing now? 48%. Can you retire with a 50-50 chance of success? I wouldn't. Let's make it better. The program by default assumes you retire at age 65. So I asked Mark, could you work for a few more years? Now, like a lot of my clients, Mark loves what he does for a living. He's very good at it. He's just great at it. He says, yeah, Mark, you know what? Not only could I work, I think I'd like to work. I mean, I'd love what I do. I look forward to going to work in the morning. So we go to this little page right here, and we're going to push that back to age 68 from age 65. How's he doing now? Look at that. We got him in the green zone. I want you and everyone you know to be in that green zone. So that's really good. We talk about this. Now you see right there, it's showing. There we go. It also shows age 68 now and an income of $118,000 a year. Here's where it gets that number. It takes the $180,000 he's currently making, subtracts the $25,000 he's currently saving, and subtracts taxes. So what this is, this number represents what him and his wife are actually living on, and the program says, okay, they need that for the rest of their life, indexed for inflation. And that's fine. But I'm talking to Mark and Mary, and they said, Mark, that would be really nice, but honestly, we're pretty frugal, we're simple folk. We would be just fine with $100,000 a year. So we're going to change this number to $100,000 by asking this question. Okay, if we have $100,000 base income, indexed for inflation for the rest of your life, what if in the first 10 years we add $1,000 a month fund money, vacation money, just travel money. Just a little extra for the first 10 years of retirement. Martin, I like that. That's a good idea. So we're going to click on here, add new goal. And here we have now. So $100,000 for forever, $12,000 a year for the first 10 years. How are they doing now? 89% chance of success. They're almost in the blue zone. If you're in the blue zone, that means you're going to leave millions of dollars to your descendants. That means at your funeral, they have an open bar because you can afford it. Good old Uncle John, whatever they drink, right? Your Gatorade or whatever it is. All right. So he's doing really, really well. Mark and Mary, they're excited. They're high-fiving each other. I'm happy. I mean, I've helped them accomplish this goal right here or create this plan for them that's really customized. And then I noticed that Mark gets a little bit serious. He says, Martin, you know what? I do love what I do for a living. I enjoy it. But sometimes I work 60, even 70 hours a week. When I'm 65, I don't want to work that hard anymore. Can we go back to age 65? So yeah, okay, we're going to go back in here. We'll change that to age 65. How's he doing now? Oh, just barely out of the green zone. So we talk some more. So Mark, you don't want to work 70 hours a week, but you do like what you do for a living. Could you work part-time? And he goes from kind of withdrawn, almost overwhelmed or kind of melancholy look to his eyes glide up. Yeah, you know what, Martin? I could work part-time. I'd love that. Again, I love what I do for a living. So we talk about some more. We figure out that he could work for about 5 years and make $36,000 a year by teaching one class at university and doing some consulting work. My cardiologist just retired in June that I've worked with for about, 6-7 years now. And I was talking and we became very good friends. He said, Martin, when I retire, what am I going to do? And that's actually a whole other class about that aspect of retirement. Most retirement problems are not caused by money, they're caused by other things. Lack of purpose, not enough relationships, things like that. And so yeah, this guy's going to be happier now that he can still wake up and do something, okay, with the skills that he's developed over his life. So how's he doing now? 80% chance of success. Can you see how using this software, which I think of the free software out there, it is the absolute best. It is highly customizable. It took how long? 5, maybe 10 minutes to look at a whole bunch of scenarios until we dialed it down. We found a plan that fit Mark and Mary exactly based on their needs, their goals, and their resources. What if you do that for your clients and customers? That's real value add, and it takes 10 minutes max. So this plan, do you think this plan is likely to succeed for them? I think very likely to, because it's based on their exact circumstances. All right, let's now look at someone else, someone who's a little bit behind on their goals. So here we have a 40-year-old making $120,000 a year. His wife stays at home. He's got $85,000 in his 401k and he's saving $10,000 a year. Do you know anyone like that? That's pretty typical around here. Now, they have a little less money than they should in the 401k at this point. But if he owns a home, or they own a home, what do they have a lot of right now? Equity. What good is equity when it stays in your house? How much interest does your equity earn inside your house? None whatsoever, okay? So keep that in mind here, okay? So there's a lot of people out there, who are a little behind their goals because they have small people who live in their home called children who want to eat every single day. My kids ate every day. I don't know why. I fed you yesterday. Anyway. So those are the assumptions here. How's he doing? He's got a 36% chance of success. So much like Mark and Mary, let's add one rental. Now in this example, what I'm going to do is this. We're going to hit add additional income, $18,000 a year. What I'm assuming here is that if he buys this property now, and then he holds it for 25 years, is it very likely that 25 years from now, at age 65, it'll have a positive net cash flow of $18,000? I think I'm being vastly conservative. Okay, so if you're in real estate, you're the expert, you know more than I know. Help your clients put these numbers together. So we're going to add one rental property, take some of the equity out, talk to Debbie, get the financing done. All right, so we've gone from 36 to 48. That's good. Just to kind of speed things up here a little bit, this is the next slide. There we go. We're going to add one property every 5 years. Oh, one property every 5 years. That's so hard. Is it? No, not at all. I mean, again, I'm being very conservative. So first one, nets $18,000 retirement, next one $12,000, $9,000, and then $6,000. Anyone can do it, but can you imagine if you are a realtor? Imagine your existing clients right now just buying one more property every 4 or 5 years. What does that do for your business? Especially when they catch the vision like this. So, how's he doing now? There we go. Okay, he's in the green zone. 76% chance of making it. That's really good. You've just maybe saved this person who's behind in their investment goals, trying to raise and feed their children, and do all the stuff we all want to do. All right? You've saved their bacon, and you've shown them how to use their equity and some good financing to achieve financial security. Let's go back here now. This number right here, remember he was saving $10,000 a year? Because of these rental properties, there's some extra cash flow. What if he were just to save an extra $5,000 a year? That comes from the rental properties. How's he doing now? Now he's at 88% chance of success. Oops. And I went there too far. There we go. 88% chance of success. Suppose this person you're having this conversation with says, yeah, but, and they have some emotional reasons for not wanting to do this. I'll just save the money, thank you very much. I don't want to be a landlord, or whatever their excuses are. I calculated what will this person have to save then to have the same 88% chance of success. And there's the number right there, $42,000 a year. Remember I mentioned that success in retirement is all about trade-offs, well-informed, educated trade-offs? Okay, Jeff, listen, you can buy one property using your current equity and some creative financing, buy one property every 5 years, and you're golden. You're way to go, right? You'll be fine. You can do that, but if you don't want to, all you have to do, Lynn, is figure out a way to save an extra $32,000 a year. Which is harder? I'd say trying to save $32,000 a year, because they're already stretched thin. They're already behind their goals, okay? And as a general rule, as kids get older, do they get more or less expensive? Yeah. Debbie's laughing. She's got a bunch of kids, right? Okay, so you see the power right here of the software? Do it for yourself. In fact, here's how you do it. You go to my website, Achieve More Retirement. There's the resource tab. Just click on that. This comes up. You want to go to the right-hand side. There's a little blue box right there. There's a video that will show people how to do the software like we just did here right now. And you click right there to log in. When you log in or they log in, you want to register. This is step by step. I want it to be in the video so we can all remember this. Here's the information you have to fill out. It wants your name, your date of birth, and your gender, and it uses that information for the calculation purposes for retirement. You don't have to give a phone number. So it's there, place for it, but you don't have to. And your email address is your username. So you fill this out. If you are married, you click on married, and there's room for both spouses. So that's how complicated this is to get this for free. Some very basic information. When you actually log in, that's what we just did. It's called Basic Retirement Forecast. That's a software I just gave you 2 case studies on. I suggest before you do it with someone else, do it for yourself. Practice a few times, okay? Get used to it. This one right here, there's about 35 modules here. They're all free. This is also a very good one, Retirement Bliss. Did you know that one of the fastest segments of divorce comes from people aged 65 or older? I heard a lady say one time that I married him for better or for worse, but not for lunch every day. I hit home, a little too close home for someone over there, all right? And so it's a real issue. The kids are gone now. I don't got to be stuck with this guy anymore, and I hope that doesn't happen, but it does happen sometimes. And oftentimes when we fight about money, it's not really about the money, but a lack of understanding, or lack of communication. So what Retirement Bliss does is this. It asks each spouse individually a whole bunch of questions. Do you want to travel the world or just garden for the rest of your life? Do you want to live in the city or a small town? Upgrade your house, downgrade your house. Ask a whole bunch of questions. Then it compares the 2 answers. It's okay, here's where you're in agreement with your spouse. And it gives you a score, 37% or 50%, whatever it is. Then it takes you through an exercise where you look at the areas where you're not given the same answer, and it gives you some suggestions on how to discuss those things. So hopefully you can come together. And you may not agree on everything, and that's fine, but you can improve your chances of having retirement bliss by going through that little exercise. It's called, they say the little tagline is, it's a fun way to have a serious talk about money. And it really is a fun thing. So I suggest you probably do both those right there. Those are both really good, useful tools right there. All right, so we spent a lot of time on this one. I think it's the most important one. Number 1, to overcome financial misbehavior is to have a plan. Here's number 2. Know your money DNA or your money personality. Your money personality is a lens through which you view your entire financial world. It impacts how you save your money, how you invest money, how you earn it, and how you spend it. So here's an analogy. Imagine you're on the freeway. There you are. You go on 75 miles an hour, and life is pretty good. You're listening to Debbie and I, our rock and roll band on the radio or on your whatever MP3 player, and you're just enjoying life. 75 miles an hour, and this happens. Someone goes whizzing by you at 95 miles an hour. What do you think of that person? What a jerk, okay? The way they're driving so fast, it makes absolutely no sense, and it drives you crazy. Now, while you're having those thoughts, you come up behind someone who's going 65 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour slower than you, and you can't get around them. What do you think of that person? Yeah, what a jerk. Makes no sense whatsoever, drives me crazy. So anyone who drives faster or slower than the speed that you think is comfortable makes no sense and drives you crazy. Now, time out for a moment here. Can I get a round of applause for those graphics? I did it myself. Was that impressive? Very good? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's very similar to how we manage our money. If someone has a different risk tolerance than you have, it makes no sense and it drives you crazy. If someone has different spending priorities than you, it makes no sense and it drives you crazy. Can I get real here for a moment, just for a moment here, kind of up close? You're probably married to that person. He's knocking over your head. Yeah. A lot of people, Okay? So it's not money that causes divorce, but lack of understanding. I suggest that you, and if you are married, have someone else in your life, you both take this test. There's the 5 basic money personalities: the saver and spender. That's kind of self-explanatory. The adventurer likes to take risk. The avoider hates talking about money. It just stresses them out. And the steward wants everything to go according to plan. Each one of those personalities has pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses. For example, I'm a saver. I was born in Scotland. I'm very frugal. My wife's a spender. So am I better than her? Absolutely not. It's just different. So if I get whatever, let's call it an extra $10,000 one month, I wasn't expecting it. I feel good if I save and invest the money. I've got enough clothes. I've got enough guitars. Reminds me of a joke. How many guitars does a guitarist really need? Just one more. You can do it for guns or fishing poles or anything else, right? Same joke. All right, so I get extra money. I literally feel good because my money personality, to be a saver, if I save the money. My wife feels good if she spends it. She likes to live more for the moment. I'm a killjoy. I admit that. So big thanks. Are you married to one? Okay. All right. Do your money personalities then, both you and your husband, all right? Because we understand that, when I get extra money now, you know what? Fine. Let's blow $2,000 and we'll save $8,000. So she gets her needs met, I get my needs met. And this is a true story. I spent 15 years in the Utah Army National Guard. Right? I was retired as a captain. Any ex-military in here? Okay, what do you call an officer with half a brain? Gifted. All right. So I get my commission. I'm a brand new second lieutenant. I just started my career as a financial advisor basically that year. And man, I was dirt poor because who's going to trust me with their money right out of school? So it was not easy. And we go down to Arizona for 6 months of training as a brand new lieutenant. Now, before that, my wife and I were living on about $1,000 a month. We get down to the Army. They paid me $2,500 a month. Oh, man, that felt good, didn't it? So now all my financial problems are solved, right? No. About 2 weeks down there, my wife one day gets really mad at me. And she says, Martin, I am sick and tired of feeling like a beggar in my own household. Now, being a man, I'm completely clueless. What's going on? She said, well, if I want to go out to eat, which she likes to do, I got to get your permission for it. If I want to buy shoes for our little girl who's a year old, I got to get your permission for it. So she'd say, Martin, can I buy some shoes for our daughter? And I say, well, does she need shoes? I wasn't doubting my wife, but that's just the way I think. I think out loud, and it drove her crazy. So, knowing this about ourselves and our personalities, here's what we did to solve this problem and improve our marriage. I said, we're going to make $2,500 a month for 6 months and then go back to a commission-only job. I want to save $1,000 a month. Can we do that? And she goes, well, tell me more. Okay, we save $1,000 a month first, and then there's $1,500 in the checking account that's left over. Remember, she's used to living on $1,000 a month. I said, your goal is to spend it all. Don't ask me anything. No permission. And she has way too many shoes and way too many jackets, but cut that out. Don't have that on tape. Okay? But if she wants to buy shoes and jackets, she can. I didn't care what she spent the money on. So were both of our needs being met? For saving and for spending? See, that's the difference. You know your money personality. You also know what drives you. I had a boss of mine, my very first boss, my first company, and about a year into the career, he says, okay, Martin, come with me. And we go in this brand new Lexus with deep, soft, leather seats, this Bose sound system playing Mozart, and it was an experience for what I was used to driving. We drive up to the bench of the mountains, park the car, and we get out. He just kind of pauses for a little bit, lets me take it all in. Down below is a private country club, a golf course there with beautiful, lush green fairways and the water hazards and the trees, and multi-million-dollar houses dotting this fairways or this golf course. So time goes by, and my boss says to me, Martin, if you do everything I tell you to do, you work hard day after day, month after month, year after year, and Martin, you don't give up. He said, one day, Martin, all of this will be mine. I don't work for him anymore. Here's the thing, when you want to try to motivate someone, you have to motivate them in terms that make sense to them. If you're trying to get someone to buy more real estate, and they're motivated by saving money, and you're saying, man, if you do what I'm telling you, we do all this stuff right here, you can buy these expensive cars and take fabulous vacations, and you might actually be stressing them out. You're talking about spending money. They don't want to do that. Or if they do want to do that, you're saying, man, if you do all this stuff right here, and you buy all these properties and get this cash flow going, look how much money you can save. And they're thinking, why in the world do I want to save any money? I want to blow it. So understand your client's money personalities as well, and you'll be able to work more on their terms rather than on your terms. All right, so we talked about having a plan, your money personality. Here's the next one. Get an outside opinion. Here is someone climbing a mountain. Let's assume it's Mount Everest. How do you measure someone's success when it comes to climbing Mount Everest? Okay, I like you said there. Survive. Good. I like that. Most people say, well, if I make it to the top, that's success. It's not. No one's goal should be to make it to the top or near the top and then be stuck there, right? You want to make it to the top and come back down. You want to survive. Thank you very much. Everyone who climbs Mount Everest, no matter what kind of shape they're in and what kind of experience, who do they always have tag along with them? Guides, Sherpas, right? Sherpas. So why do they use Sherpas? Yes, like it. They've been there before, right? They know what to avoid. They know what to look for, what to pack, what not to pack. Right? Jeff, you don't need your big screen TV on Mount Everest. I'm sorry. I know you like your sports, but no, we're going to leave that at the base camp. All right? They know what to do. Here's the other, I think, very important reason. The Sherpas have little to no emotional attachment to the outcome. And they will see things more clearly. They will bring you back to the plans you set for yourself, which is, like you said, to survive, and greatly increase your chances of doing so. So picture this. If you want to climb Mount Everest, how many years does it take to prepare for that? I'm not an expert. I'm guessing 10 plus years. I mean, it's a long journey. It costs at least $100,000, if not more. Years and years of expense, of training, energy, blood, sweat, tears. And you get up there, and you're now, there's the top of Mount Everest. I mean, you can see it. It's 400 yards away. A storm comes through. You're hunkered down for 2 or 3 days. Your supplies are getting low. And the Sherpa says, if you try and summit Mount Everest in these conditions, you will probably die. Now, being that we're all Americans, what are we going to do anyway? At least we're going to want to go for it, right? Because what they do in the movies, they go for it, right? And there's a time and place for that. I believe in going for it, right? Business, rock and roll bands, whatever it is. But that Sherpa will help you see things a little more clearly and make sure that you survive. You get to the top or near the top, and you come back home safely to your family. One last thing about Sherpas, okay, in the outside opinion. Did you know that more deaths and more accidents occur on Mount Everest on the way down than the way up? Over about 72% happen on the way down. The descent is far more dangerous than the climb. Part of the reason is because you're tired by then. You may run out of supplies, and other factors impact that. And it's similar to retirement. The goal of retirement is not to get to age 65 with $1 million or 12 rental properties. That's not the goal. It's to get through retirement, right? And it's far more dangerous once you're already in retirement because you have less time to make up for mistakes and other things as well. Okay, so you will have a plan. You want to know your money DNA, get an outside opinion. Here's another thing. Use a checklist. It was a checklist that reduced deaths in the operating table by 47%, saving over 70,000 lives per year. Anyone here know any surgeons? How about doctors even? Doctors have a God complex, right? And surgeons are the very top of the heap. I mean, surgeons think they can walk on water. And they do amazing things. They have a lot of pressure. They got to just think very clearly and confidently, okay? Well, a surgeon found out that by having a simple checklist, it vastly reduced human-caused errors. So what do you think the surgeons did at first when they heard about this? They did not embrace it. Like, what are you talking about? A checklist? I'm too smart. I don't need that. But they couldn't argue with the results. Here's what the checklist would include. Is this the right patient? Some of you are kind of laughing about that. And I remember I met my heart surgeon at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. He went home, had dinner, and went to bed. So he could have easily mistaken me for someone he didn't know who I was. Is it the right leg or the left leg? They have people introduce themselves, all the staff, the anesthesiologist, the nursing, everyone else. And this checklist reduced deaths and saved 70,000 lives per year. So once they saw the results, the surgeons got on board. Now, speaking of getting on board, the checklist was developed in the Second World War when the B-17 bomber came out. The B-17 bomber was the most advanced airplane in the world at the time. It had tremendous capabilities, and they were having far too many accidents. They had highly trained, skillful pilots, but too many accidents, too many crashes. What they did, number 3, they brought in an outside consultant who looked things over, and this consultant said, have a pre-flight checklist that your pilots go through every single time. Have a checklist before you land. Have a checklist before you reach the bombing run. Have a checklist for emergencies. They started using checklists, and accidents went down dramatically. You guys remember Captain Sullenberg? Miracle on the Hudson? He takes off from airport in New York City, birds hit his engines, they're knocked out within just a few minutes, and he safely lands on the water and saves everyone's life. Awesome story. You know what he did? When the engines went out, him and his co-pilot immediately went to a checklist. They went through very quickly, and they figured, okay, our best chance of survival is to land in the nearest body of water, which was the Hudson River. So the real hero of that story is not Captain Sullenberg, it's the checklist. No, I'm kidding. It's Captain Sullenberg, okay? Can you imagine the emotions going through his mind right there? To have the fortitude to go look at that checklist and use it is awesome. So have a checklist for buying and selling houses, preparing them for a show. Have a checklist for other financial decisions. You know, if you're going to buy something, where are you going on vacation? Just use checklists. If you're not sure how to develop one, you go back to step number 3, the outside expert, outside opinion. Talk to someone who's done it before. Your financial Sherpa, your retirement Sherpa, your mortgage Sherpa, like Debbie, right, who's been there before, and then walks you through it all. Because I bet you Debbie's got a pretty good checklist. But I will tell you, I refinanced with her back in October, November last year. They closed, I think, 12 days early. I wasn't expecting that. That's a good thing. Very good thing. But right off the bat, she gave me a checklist. Do this, 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 and Martin, expect this, this, and this. Because refinancing is not fun. And I would say that Debbie made it less not fun. That a fair assumption there? Less not fun, all right? It was pretty good. All right, so we got through 4 things. Our final thing we're going to look at, before you get to that, there's my checklist for retirement plans. If someone is within 5 years or less of retirement, I generally speaking will go through all these. These are all the things you have to deal with in retirement. You got to talk about them all. And how do I know that? Experience. I'm a retirement Sherpa. If someone has 5 years or longer, then this one down here is probably just fine. This one I charge $1,000 for this one. I charge $500 for that one. And I think right there we're going to give away 2 of those plans. So I'm happy to do it for 2 lucky people here today. If your card's in there, yes. All right. The 5th one here we're going to talk about now is don't lose money. If you have an investment and you gain 50% in 1 year, and then you lose 50% the next year, that means your average return is 0, and you break even, right? You're all on your head, yes? You're wrong. Let's do the quick math here, okay? This is BYU math, so it's very simple math. If we have $100,000, all right, let's gain 50%. How much money do we have? Okay, $150,000. Great, awesome. We got 50% rate of return. We've gone from 100 grand to 150. Now we lose 50%. What's half of 150? 75,000 bucks. So minus 50%, and we're at $75,000. Hopefully it's not running together too much with everything else there. It's kind of knocked off right there. A lot of people don't get that. It is more important to avoid losses than it is to get gains. If you protect the money first, don't lose it, then you do better in the long run. That's why Warren Buffett has 2 rules for investing. What are his 2 rules? Do you know? Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2, refer back to rule number 1. That's what Warren Buffett says. So there are lots of ways to not lose money. And of course, I think real estate is a great buffer against stock market fluctuations, absolutely. And even during the Great Recession in 2008, if you held on to the real estate, if you bought it properly and you financed it properly, did you lose money if you held on to it? No, okay? I'm going to share with you right now one little technique. This is for outside real estate. This is kind of what I do for managing portfolios, especially in IRAs and 401ks. And it's a concept that most people don't know about, and I think is extremely powerful. Add a reverse gear to your portfolio. A reverse gear can reduce losses and even improve returns. Here's what I mean by that. Here's a reverse gear. It's an inverse fund. Now, I'm not going to make you experts in the next 60 seconds about this, but I want to expose you to the idea. And if you want to learn more about it, let me know. There's actually a one-page summary of this out there on the table. If you're interested, pick up the summary. Okay? So an inverse fund, when the market goes down by 1%, it goes up by 1%. In its simplest form, that's what it does. And here's how you use them. There's a stock market going for 40 years. What is the general trend of the stock market over time? It goes up, right? I mean, it definitely is a lot higher here than it was down here. But there's the 2000 tech bubble burst. There's the recession. There are some time periods when there's some pretty big losses in the stock market. I bet you if I looked at all your statements right now, if you have a 401k or an IRA, if I looked at your investment portfolio, I can almost guarantee that none of you have the ability to add an inverse fund. Most people don't do it. The reason is, what they say, just hold on for the long run. Just ride it out. Don't worry about it. I don't believe in that. You can actually make money in these time periods here. Here's how this works. Okay, this is the coronavirus correction. In blue, we have the stock market. And in about 6 weeks, it lost 35% of its money or value in 6 weeks. Now, then it bounced right back up, which is a good thing. The orange right there is the inverse of the S&P 500. What did the inverse fund do during the coronavirus correction? It went up 35%. Now, if anyone tells you, guess what? I know when the market's going to go down. I know it's going to go up. Here's what you do. You hold onto your wallet and you run. No one knows when that's going to happen exactly right. But you can look for trends and then you react. You don't predict, but you react to the trends. Here's what I mean by that. So, the market begins to go down, you get out of the market, you go into the inverse. So there's some losses there, you begin to make some money, and then as the market begins to recover, not at the very bottom, but somewhere near the bottom, you get out of the inverse and back into the market, the regular market. That is theory. I want you not to get too caught up in the details on that, because it's not exactly right, but it's very, very close. Let's look at some actual returns now. Okay, the coronavirus correction, it started on February 14th of 2020. My band actually had a gig that night, a Valentine's Day gig, and it was our last gig for 2 years. I remember that night very well. So, in February, this is with inverse and without inverse, they both were down about 5%. Okay, the market began to go down, but the portfolios with the ability to go inverse said, you know what, this is going to keep on happening, these losses, let's go in reverse gear right now. They added the reverse gear. The next month, they made 7.5% positive returns. The market kept going down. So let's add these 2 months up here. Let's call it -5 plus 7.5. That's a 2.5% positive return during the worst correction since 2008 versus -13% right there. Let's look at some of the rest of the year there. So for 2020, for the whole entire year, again, that's with inverse and without. With inverse, it was up 39% for the year. Without inverse, it's up 12%. And then the last big correction in the stock market was 2008. And these portfolio managers that I affiliate with, They started back in 2008, and there's the returns. They had a positive 48% return in 2008 when the market was down 20% plus that year. So one way amongst many that you can cushion against losses or even make money in downward markets is to have a portfolio that has the ability to go inverse. Two more things about this very quickly, and I'm going to summarize. I'm going to bring Debbie up here. Any questions on this chart right here? I'm kidding, okay? It's just a whole bunch. What I'm just doing with this chart here, I'm showing you that we do have the actual returns net of all fees going back for 14 years. There's the month-to-month returns. It's not perfect. They lose money some months, but 48%, 59%, 17%, it's pretty much in the double digits most of the time. This is a phenomenal way to invest money outside of real estate, I believe. So for most of my clients, it's the foundation. Matter of fact, I started working with these guys just in January. One of my clients, unfortunately, lost her husband to COVID last November. Invested money with me. Since she started in late January 24th, okay, until this is like a couple weeks ago, and the market's down between 13 and 18%. Those are the actual market returns. My client's account is up positive 4%. Is she happy? Yeah. So it is possible to make money. This is some of you had that question in the little questionnaire when you registered about how to make money when the market goes down or protect your money. That is one way to do it. I'm not recommending it to you right now. Unless you think it could be of interest to you, then by all means, let's talk about that later. So I'm just trying to get you exposed to the basic idea there. Okay, has this made sense so far, what we talked about? Right? Emotions, what? Can be hazards to your wealth. So what do you got to do about that? Have a plan, know your money personality, get the outside opinion, use a checklist, and don't lose money. You know, we started at the very beginning here talking about all these things that are in the way between you and financial security. And we focused on outside things, the war in Ukraine. We talked about inflation. We talked about, what else? The stock market. How much influence do you and I have on Vladimir Putin? None. How much influence do we have on the stock market? None. I once taught my wife this basic economic concept that when you spend money, it stimulates the economy. My wife has not gone shopping now for 25 years. All she does now is she stimulates the economy. Sounds much better, doesn't it? Okay? What I'm trying to get at that is, if you want to achieve financial security, don't focus on outside forces that you cannot control. Who controls whether or not you have a plan? Who controls if you know your money DNA and that of your spouse or your customers or clients? Who controls if you get an outside opinion? You work with experts in their field, like Jeff and Debbie or any other realtor. Right? That's all up to you. So you got to focus on the things you can control. Now, if you don't do this, let's suppose you don't, here's a good question for you. What do you do when you run out of money in retirement? Ignore what I just said. If you're watching the video, ignore this video. Go watch Dancing Cats on YouTube somewhere else, right? That's funner than me. Okay? If you don't do these things, here's what happens. This is a headline story from, is it Bloomberg magazine? Yeah, Bloomberg magazine from about 5 years ago. The elderly are now robbing banks. And see, and we laugh at that. It's kind of humorous, but it's also very sad. Here's the backstory. Now, they give two reasons. They say, well, they're lonely. Lynn, if you get lonely, please don't rob banks. Okay? We'll go to lunch, we'll golf, we'll do something together, all right? Don't or talk to your kids or grandkids, all right? Kids, don't let her do that. So I think it's not loneliness. I think it's the second reason right there. It is poverty. They did not apply the principles I just taught you. They didn't do it for emotionally based reasons, and emotions can pass us to their wealth and to your wealth. They didn't do it. Now they're 80 years old, they're 85 years old. Inflation has cut their purchasing power by half or more. Their spouse is in pain, they can't afford the medication, and they're robbing banks. So, you know, I hope you get a sense that I love what I do for a living. I have a lot of fun doing it. I try and be funny, in spite of what Debbie said. I do try. But I also take my job very seriously because I know the impact it can have to people. So for my clients that achieve more retirement, if you're a realtor, for your clients in the real estate business, if we do our jobs right, there's stronger marriages, there's happier homes, there's dreams fulfilled, there's less stress, there's less tension, right? So I want to encourage you to do these things. We're going to have Debbie come right now for about, I think, 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll have just one more final thought before we end here, okay? So let's bring Debbie with a round of applause. You can pick that to go forward. Well, that's go forward. That's the laser.
That's forward, that's the laser. Okay, thank you, Martin. He's so awesome, right? Okay, so you guys learned about investing, and you get to chat with him about how you guys can access that software as his gift to you and some other things afterwards. But my expertise is going to be teaching you really quick some options about investing in real estate so that you know for yourself, but also your buyers. When you get to share the software with them and they're interested in purchasing a property, a new property every 1 to 5 years from you, you guys tenfold your ability to reach people, because not only them, but their referrals. And you want to be able to have the conversation on how they can do it and all the different ways that they can get into investing, the safest and easiest ways. I'm not into flipping. I'm not into hard money. I'm a traditional mortgage lender. I do have some non-QM products we can talk about later, but we just want to talk about the simplest, easiest ways to get started. There we go. Whoops. How do I go backwards? There we go. So, why invest in real estate? Most self-made millionaires and billionaires got there in part or all by real estate. Real estate is what changed my life. Some of you have heard a little bit of my story that Jeff mentioned. In 2013, 20 years ago, I was that standard Idaho, stay-at-home, homemaker mom that was going to go to college someday when my youngest was in school, and I let my husband take care of the finances, and then suddenly I got those unexpected divorce papers and eviction notice and was instantly homeless and penniless with 6 kids in tow. I didn't know about finances. That was not a fun space to be in. So now I'm really passionate about learning from people like Martin and people like Jeff and from the people who trained me in lending and in finance, because when I learned that stuff, it turned my life around, and real estate is what got me back on my feet, owning my first place, building my equity, building my portfolio, and I don't want anyone to ever be in that position again, so that's why I am very passionate about teaching, and I do classes and events like this all of the time. And here's just some of the things I'm going to talk about here. Real estate, we do have a concern right now, right? You're probably hearing, I literally answer this question every single day. And those of you who are agents in the room, probably the same question. What if there's a crash? What if home prices are going to drop? Do you guys have an answer ready for that with statistics to back it up? Home prices they have gone up, and then we're seeing some price reductions. But I want to talk to you guys about how to help your people realize, statistically speaking, home prices, home appreciation always recovers, even if that does happen. That's not what we're seeing right now, and I know you guys have this education, and we can chat more about that later, but even in 2008, I have that, people come to me like, I lost $40,000 in 2008. Well, what if you had held your property? What is it worth today? You'd have $200,000 to $400,000 more right now. So it's not about that. It's about, we consider, like I said, I don't get into the flipping and things like that. We talk about the long-term buy and hold strategies. And I have a really awesome slide that I printed up for all of you, and I'm going to go over that with you in a minute, and that's something that you guys can go over with your clients as well. So one of the questions you're going to get from people is, should I rent or should I buy? Because I actually just had this call this morning. She's like, I'm so scared to buy right now. It's so expensive. It's expensive. Renting is expensive because that is 100% interest and you don't keep anything. So these are actually 2 real scenarios from these families who bought in 2000. One of them bought in 2000, and one of them was renting in 2000. The payments were the same to start, but over time to 2021, so we've got this person, family A, who walks away with $258,000 in equity, and what does family B walk away with? Nothing. And then you think, oh, well, renting is less than mortgage payments right now. Well, just temporarily, because rent always goes up. And when you purchase, your mortgage payment and your interest is fixed. And so for the rent payment in the same house that started out the same, $900. Well, the only thing that goes up, principal and interest is fixed, will stay the same. Taxes and insurance go up just a little bit. So they're paying $1,100. These guys are paying $1,600. And lately, in some areas, rent has gone up even more than that. When to buy. So nobody can time the market. But like we said, statistically speaking, if you consider it a long-term strategy, especially if you're looking at retirement, you're looking at 10, 20 years, it always goes up 3 to 5%. Now, obviously, it went up a lot more than that the last couple of years. But if we average out the last 10 years, it's 3 to 5%. And we're going to talk about how your return on investment is even more than that. So statistically speaking, again, we used to talk about how if you could break even on the rent on a 15-year mortgage, that's one of the first tips that you want to look at. But right now, we're actually saying if you can break even and make your payments even without cash flow on a 30-year mortgage, the appreciation, we're still low on inventory, and it looks like we're going to be that way for about 5 years. So I'm going to talk about the other 3 ways that you can make money on investing in real estate other than just cash flow. And so even if you're just breaking even for now, it's still a good investment. Okay, so here it is. This is my favorite slide, and this is the one you guys all have a copy of, and let me know if you need any more. So like I talked about, cash flow, the first way to make money in real estate, and sometimes the only way that people think we make money investing in real estate is the cash flow. So if we had a $400,000 property at 6%, we're actually a little bit lower than that right now, but these are kind of the averages we've been at lately. And we did a 20% down payment, which is standard for an investment property, but we can talk about some other strategies in a minute. The payment of the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is going to be about $21.83. And what we run on that, when we're funding an investment property, we do a rental analysis with the appraisal. They'll give us that, so we know what it's going to rent for. So on this one, if it rents for $2,400, your monthly cash flow is $216. So if you times that by 12, you're getting about $2,500 a year. If you divide that by your investment, which was the $80,000, you're looking at a 3% ROI right there, just on the cash flow alone. But say you're not cash flowing. Let's look at the other 3 ways we can make money on real estate. So appreciation. I just mentioned that. We've gone up 20 to 30% in some areas in the last 2 years, which is not what we are calculating, because that is abnormal, and it's probably not going to continue at that rate for too much longer. But the average over the last 10 years has been 3.5%. So if you buy a home at $400,000 and it's appreciating at that, you're getting about $14,000 a year. If you divide that by your $80,000 investment, that's 17% return on your investment. And this is the beautiful thing about investing in real estate. If you're buying other investments, and there's some good ones. You're not going to want to do stocks on your own. You're going to want to talk to someone like Martin. But it is going to be dollar for dollar, and you're only going to appreciate on the $80,000. If you buy real estate, you put down $80,000, but then you get the appreciation on the entire $400,000. That's all yours. And then we have depreciation. A lot of people don't even know what that means. Is there anyone here that doesn't know what that means? It's okay if you don't. This is about with the tax write-off. So what you get to do for 27.5 years, you get to depreciate a portion of the property, and it's based on your tax bracket. So I'm going to flip ahead to the tax slide really quick. If you know your tax bracket, most of you probably do, but if you don't, you can look this up, or I can send this to you. But what I picked here for the math that I'm doing is the 22%, because this is the average. For single people, that's $41,000 to $89,000, or for married, it's $83,000 to $178,000. So that is our average standard income around here. Back to the other one. Okay, so we take that and we times that. So trying to get there we go. The 14,000. So the 400,000, the purchase price, divided by the 27.5 years is 14,000. So that means each of those years, you times that by your tax bracket. This is the number that you will get. And you can put in your own numbers into any of these. So then you take the 3,200 divided by your investment, and that adds another 4% return on your investment. Then the last way is another one that people forget about that increases over time is the principal reduction or principal pay down. So on month 1, anyone know how amortization works? There's a lot of interest up front, and then principal is paid down later. So, and then I should have brought the chart that shows when that cross point is. But when you have an investment property, your renters are paying your mortgage for you. So the principal and interest is going down. This is the low end of the $400,000. Every single month, this number is actually going to get higher. The principal amount that they're paying will be higher every month. But just to keep the math simple, we started with the low end, which was $318.56. So we multiply that by 12, even that's not considering the principal that they're paying down is going up every month. But that number is $3,800. Divide that by your $80,000 investment, and that return on your investment is 4.7 for a total of 28.7% return on your investment. And the other thing I love about real estate, besides all of these things, the pride of ownership, like knowing that this land of inheritance is yours. I know a lot of people that want to get a minimum of 5 properties so that they have an inheritance for each of their children, or there's just a lot of reasons. But also, unless you have an expert that you're working with and you're just trying to wing the stock market yourself, what happened to Enron and MySpace stocks? Anybody know what happened to those? Gone overnight, right? Disappeared. Is real estate going to disappear? It will always be there. Sometimes there's some catastrophic events that you get to plan for, and we'll talk about reserves and the things that you need to plan for, having a good property management and things like that to help vet out your tenants, make sure the rent's going to get paid. And there are some downsides to it, but overall, it's a wealth builder, right? Do we have time for any more, or am I out of time? Couple of the funding options. Let me just go over those super fast. Our favorite strategy to help young people get started in investing is for FHA, you can get a 4-unit property for as little as 3.5% down. And if you will live in one of the units, and we can count up to 75% of the rental income from the other units to qualify them. So they're getting a much larger purchase price. They're living in one of them, and the other 3 tenants are paying most of the mortgage, but they're gaining, again, the appreciation on the entire value of the whole unit, all 4 units. So that's our favorite way. My second favorite way is when people get into their first home for traditionally 3% down on conventional. You only have to live there for 1 year to keep your primary residence financing, which is going to be your best interest rate. And then you can move, if you're willing to move into the next property, you can keep that one, rent it out. If you have the contract before you close on your new home, you, again, can use the rental income to qualify for a larger purchase price on your second home. And then you actually get to keep primary residence financing on both properties. You can do that up to 10 times. You can have 10 properties financed through conventional financing. Did you have a question? You just move in. Okay. Oh yeah, and if you're single, I actually just closed 2 loans in the last 3 weeks with a couple of young men who are in their early 20s, came to one of my homebuyer classes. They had no idea they could even qualify. People just don't have this education. That's why it's our job to teach them. they have these old thoughts in their heads that you have to have 20% down or you have to have your 2-year job history, and they're like, I'm only 20, I just finished school. We can use college transcripts as your job history. We just need to get people educated. So they came to my class and they were brothers, and within 2 weeks they were both under contract and they both have their own little property now. And they can rent out their rooms and actually have their mortgage paid for. So they're gaining all of those benefits, and they're not even paying anything out of pocket. And if they were renting, again, they'd be like family B in that first scenario, right? Oh, and you can team up with other investors too. So this is something you want to be talking to, not just about investors, but some of the struggling first-time home buyers. We can have up to 4 individuals or 8 people, if they're 4 married couples, on one loan. So that many people can buy a property together, whether you're going to live there or not. If someone's going to live there, you can do the 3% down if someone's a first-time home buyer, or the 5% if they're not. Or you can all chip in together, pull up your down payment funds, get the 15, we have a minimum of 15%, but 20 has a better interest rate. Get the property, grow the appreciation, then split the equity in a couple of years, and then start to grow your portfolio from there. We'll skip that. Okay, also we do want to talk about making sure you know what you're doing. You get some advice from some people when you start to invest. You want to know anything along the Wasatch Front is going to rent out. There's wait lists right now for rental properties there. But you want to be careful. Sometimes people are like, oh, it's cheaper to get a property out here in the middle of nowhere. Well, yeah, but there's probably not as many renters either. Or if you're looking at like mining towns or oil towns like Vernal, what if that industry crashed? Then all of a sudden, there's not renters available. So looking for towns that aren't based on one main source of income or one main industry, looking for places that are in nice neighborhoods. You don't want old rundown neighborhoods. You want to be we do recommend a property manager. You guys, do you use one? I'm sure you do. You do your own? Okay, well, you're very seasoned. We do recommend people get a property manager, especially in the beginning, because they're going to make sure that you have good tenants in there, because then you don't want your house to be the reason that neighborhood is not safe anymore. And they know how to run their credit and the background checks and make sure that you have good renters in there. And the other thing is we do also recommend nothing older than 20 years, especially if you're new. If you're seasoned, you might learn some different things. But when you're new, the roof and the plumbing and things like that, if you don't want to have to be dealing with that, we do recommend your first properties to be 20 years or younger. And I think, that's about it. Okay, so I'm going to have Martin come and finish up for us, and then we're going to do our prices.
Awesome. Thank you, Debbie. Are you glad you came here this morning? I hope so. Okay, thank you, Lynn, for that polite round of applause. The rest of you? No, it's all right. Here on your outline, I put the place there for some notes and all that, but I'm finishing in about 1 minute. I want you to take just 2 or 3 minutes and write down why you want financial independence, and I want you to write down what steps you're going to take next. Are you going to talk to the person who invited you here today? Are you going to talk to Debbie? Do you want to talk to me? Are you going to get that software? And everyone should log in and get that software, everyone. But whilst it's fresh in your memory, I want you to write down what you're actually going to do. Because knowledge is not power. It is potential power. The only power that really matters is applied knowledge. So this is not about me doing a dog and pony show and telling some jokes and trying to inspire you. I want to get real results. I want your lives to be better off for yourselves and for your families. Imagine for a moment then that you have that plan in place. You know your money personality and your spouses, right? You work with the outside expert. You have a checklist, and you make sure your plan minimizes losses as much as possible. Those are things that you can control, that you want to focus on, so that you can achieve financial independence in any market condition. It is your money. It's your future. Please take charge. Thank you.
Explain what those are.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys. We'll
Okay.
stick around for a little bit to answer your questions.
If you scan that QR code, it has our contact information. If you're old-fashioned like me, there it is right there. You can just write it down. Wait, who put those pictures there? What?
A lot of you are real estate agents. Set up an appointment with Debbie. You saw her presentation here. She loves to strategize on success for you and for your clients. Set up an appointment to download that software. Play around with it, right? Off of Martin's website. Play around with it. Put in your own personal situation. See the value of it. And the third challenge is, who can you share this type of information with and introduce to it? I mean, what a great team, right? If you could be responsible for helping somebody else with their financial success by hooking them up with the right professionals that will help them succeed and have a better future, what more do you want, right? So thanks again for coming. I love you all, and stick around and visit and network for a little bit if you want to. So thanks.